So we're kicking it with Philly right now. He's a videographer, photographer extraordinary. He's worked a lot in the skating world. He's worked with Lil Wayne, of course, a lot. But how did this all get started for you? How did you get started with videography? Where are you from? And I know you're in LA, but yeah, how'd you wind up there?
So my name is Phillip Lopez. Born and raised in Palmdale, California. It's a small desert town about an hour outside of LA. Basically how I got into videography was just being around skateboarding my whole life. And I think that, once you're in that crowd, you start to notice like people are working with different cameras, and it just like, I don't know, I was instantly drawn by it. And I think that the more I the older I got, I started to understand it, being influenced by all the local skate videos our local shop put out. They're called Pharmacy Board Shop. They play a huge role in my career, as well as several people who are involved with the skate shop. But yeah, just started out being a skateboard filmer. I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't know how to set a camera. I just would hit record and I just hope I get the shot. I didn't know how to use focus or any of that shit. So, I mean, eventually, I started like watching YouTube videos, trying to like perfect this camera that I was using at the time, which was a VX1000 SD standard quality camera that takes little mini DV tapes. Yeah, and it took me about 3 years to figure out that camera. My mom asked me if I wanted a camera, I think when I turned 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I want this camera called a VX. And she's like, are you sure you want that? It's an old camera, because from a parent's perspective, she was trying to buy me something nice that take a battery and a SD card. And I was like, no, I want this old camera because it has just like it has this look to it. It's a very skateboard feel. I mean, if you have that vision, you can kind of understand it.
Right.
To the ordinary person, I think, it could be looked at like, oh, that quality is cheap, but
Mm.
yeah, I got the camera for my birthday and I slowly used it for, many years and figured out how to, disassemble everything because they're very fragile. So ribbon cable snap, order new parts. I figured out how to break it down,
Mm-hmm.
take the tape deck out, etc., and so on.
So you're filming on like VHS tapes? Was that?
Yeah, so the tapes are relatively small. I want to say like about this size, and yeah, man, they're expensive. The tapes were expensive at the time, so I mean, sometimes we would have to go to Walmart and like we'd steal them. Don't tell me we were stolen. And we were kids, we didn't know any better, and yeah, and that's how we kind of like we just would film and take the bus everywhere, and then like obviously living in Palmdale, you can't really network out there. And us being kids, we don't know anything about networking or like meeting new people. But I mean, yeah, I have a friend named Kevin Martinez who plays a huge role in my life. He's been filming skateboarding for over 20 years. He's from San Fernando Valley, and I always liked like his eye and like how he would capture things, like the way he would film a certain trick or the way he would edit a video, the songs he would use, the B-roll in the footage of like of all the friends, giving high fives or whatever. And I seen stuff like that with like the bigger corporate videos that were coming out, and it was cool, but I was more drawn to this raw homie skating versus like the corporate, like the people who are like doing big events and like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, that's kind of like how I got started into skateboard filming, and I still film skateboarding today. But yeah, and then I guess as I gradually got older, you graduate to newer camera equipment, and you start to learn things that you didn't know before. But yeah,
Right.
that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So
As
you
far as
got so
go ahead.
so skating, like how did you first get into that? It was just something you were just into it and just around it in the area.
So the first time I got into skateboarding I was about 7 or 8 years old. My mother, shout out my mom, she plays a huge role in my career as well. She took me to my grandma's house because my grandmother was watching me. My cousin Rodney was there, and he had there's a skateboard that his stepmom at the time she bought it for him, and I remember it was a blind Ronnie Krieger DJ board. I was just talking about this with one of my friends recently, and that was the first time I ever seen a skateboard, and I was instantly like drawn just by the color of the wheels, the graphic, the grip tape. Like I just fell in love with that, and I didn't own a skateboard at the time, so um every time I would bug my mom. I knew he was there because my cousin was living with my grandmother at the time, and I was like, "Oh, I want to go to grandma's house." And she didn't. She's like, "Why you always want to go there?" It's like, because I used to hate going there, but there was a skateboard there that my cousin got here. He owned a skateboard, but he didn't really use it. It was just there. So I would go and like sneak out in the backyard and like try to learn how to ride it.
Okay.
And yeah, I that's my first encounter with the skateboard. And then
Sort of like hanging out with other skaters and just like, let me
yeah,
film.
you start to notice things. I mean, when you're exposed to something at such an early age, I feel like those are the things that are going to impact you the most as an adult.
Right.
That's why skating has stuck with me and so many others, because we're exposed to it at such a young age. And I think that moment in time in particular has definitely stayed with me throughout my whole life. Because I think if it wasn't for that, me, going to my grandmother's house and seeing a skateboard for the first time, like I don't think I would have ever really been involved with it, And I think my birthday came around the next year, and I was like, "What do you want?" I was like, "I want a skateboard." And funny story, so I ended up getting a skateboard, like a brand new. We call them Christmas completes because they're just, when you first get them, they're like super brand new from the store. Like there's no scratches or anything, so it just looks like like a brand new complete. And
Yeah.
that was the first time I had my own skateboard, which is brand new blind. This is back when, well, the Van store, they still sell skateboard stuff, but this is when they were more a skate shop at the time, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And I fucking got my skateboard stolen the same day because I went to our local park down the street, and I remember some kid was like, "Oh, sick board, man, can I ride it?" And me being, the little dumb 8-year-old, I'm like, "Oh yeah!" Like kid just took it and took off, and I was so bummed. But you know what? Shit happens for a reason, and I think that's the first time I ever had something taken from me,
Right.
and I knew not to ever let anybody borrow any of my personal belongings, not alone. Like, I mean, it was different back then, in the skateboard world, like a lot of skaters were jacking each other, and like it was just,
Okay.
now a lot of skaters have money and they have jobs and shit.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of my first memory of being around skateboarding.
Getting robbed.
Yeah, like getting my skateboard stolen from me at 8 years old, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I went home crying to my mom, and then my mom called the cops. They put her police report in, and then, but yeah, that was one of my youthful memories of being a skateboarder at 8 years old.
Nice. So yeah, I guess eventually you got into the videography, like you were saying, with the camera, you got the gift. But I guess like at what age did you say like, yeah, video is something I want to do professionally? Like, did you want to be a skateboarder, and then you were like, well, actually, I kind of really like filming, and like I guess what was like the first paying gig for like filming that you said that?
Okay, so funny story about this one was, um nobody filmed in or at least for my generation, because I grew up in a generation where there was the older kids, and it was more to so like, damn, I want to hang out with those kids because they're like, they look cool, like they're fucking drinking, smoking cigarettes. Like I thought that was cool at a young age because that's just what was around. I'm like, oh, these kids are skating, like fucking smoking weed, and like, I thought it was cool. So I was like, this is what I want to do. Not like be around that crowd, but it's just like,
Right.
that's just what skating was. And that's
Right.
what was around in Palmdale. It was like skaters who go party, go filming, like, but for my generation, those are the older dudes. So it was a matter of trying to fit in. Um, and obviously you're young and dumb and naive at the time. So like, or me, I was. So I was always trying to like figure out how to get my foot in the door with the pharmacy dudes. And um I nobody was really filming, at least for like us, like the younger kids. Like they like the older dudes, they had their filmers out there, you know, who were getting ready to do bigger and better things with their career. And then I was like, okay, well, who's really filming out here? I was super involved in the skating. You know, I learned a lot of stuff at the time, just like the basic kick flips and stuff like that, and how to skate rails and etc.
Yeah.
But I started to get hurt, and when you're young and you get hurt, you get right back up and you can walk away. But
Right.
I started to know something like, oh shit, I'm getting older, but I was still filming. So I actually the reason why I got a camera too was because nobody was filming in our hometown. And I was like, damn, like what if I got a camera and then like I can just give it to my homie and like set it up like, here, can you film this trick for me? And that's
Right.
kind of what it was,
Okay.
which is like I had the camera and we had a group of friends and then we would all meet up at the park, you know, warm up, skate, whatever it is, and then we would go skate around town and take the bus everywhere and, you know, try to film the best clips we could.
Right.
You know, keep in mind, dude, we're editing on a shitty little MacBook that's like,
Right.
it's like compared to what we have now, everything's all fast and smooth. Like it was slow. So like, but we still did it. We still made videos and yeah, no, we were just super passionate about it. And I think as I got older, I started to just, I would, when I'd go on skate sessions, I got this itch to like, damn, like I actually really liked how I filmed this clip. And I got more excited on that versus me jumping off of this set of stairs. Cause I used to have that I used to get that kick when I would skate. I'm like, oh, like I liked how that looked. I'm gonna do it again.
Right.
But versus me actually filming something, I was on this high of like, wow, like I like how that looked. And that was me shooting it. So it became more consistent when we'd go out. My friends like, why aren't you skating? And I'm just like, just let me film this, bro. Like I don't even fucking care about my skating right now. Like I'm focused on you.
Right.
First paid gig I think was just, you know, working with pharmacy and doing small videos with them. You know, like the pay wasn't like crazy, but I mean it was just, oh, I can make a couple $100s off this or whatever it is, you know. So yeah, just I guess that was like my first paid gig. Or they would offer, oh, you can go to the shop and take a few decks and a couple sweatshirts. You know, we're still young, so we're like, okay, cool, yeah, hell yeah, like that's sick.
Yeah.
Like
Some
I'm down.
bonuses and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess, when did those paychecks start to become bigger where you could, actually pursue it as a career?
I mean, the paychecks were never really big, but also it was never really about money to me. It was more about the joy and the love that I have for filming and skating, which was um just putting out content with your friends. And
Mhm.
that's what was more rewarding, essentially, versus like, I'm not going to be this money hungry skateboard filmer who expects like a paycheck after every single clip that, you know,
Mhm.
we film. And I think that a lot of people are about their bread, which is totally fine. But
Mhm.
also like, I do this shit because I love it. And it's
Mhm.
always been a part of me. Skateboarding is one of the things that I know the best. Like I know like I know how to do other things, but I mean just skating is just like, it's been real impactful. And that's just the first thing I think about when I wake up. Like
Right.
it's all over my house, you know, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like one of those things that it was never really, there was, the money was there. It was like a couple $100 here and there, but like I still had a 9 to 5, you know, so I still worked a regular job,
Okay.
you know, and I made enough money so where I was, oh, I can go out and skate this weekend and, you
Mhm.
know, have some money to eat. And then it was just a repeated cycle every week, and I was okay with that at the time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, yeah, obviously, fast forward a couple of years and you've been involved with a bunch of skaters in the area. Um, but also, you got involved with working with Lil Wayne, which was, I assume, a huge break. And probably,
Absolutely.
and just continuing to follow your passion, I guess, is what kind of led you there. But I guess, how did you wind up meeting with him, and like he just kind of liked your work, or you were just there filming, and like, I guess was just happened organically?
It was more like, so it was around the time COVID hit, I remember, and I was still working at the skate shop at the time, and just like COVID and stuff, and like
Mm,
people were getting let go left and right, and I feel like I was at a point in my life where I'm like, okay, I don't want to go back to school. Because who the fuck wants to go back to school? Not me. I mean, it wasn't for me. School was never really an option for me. And,
yeah.
I was just trying to figure out, okay, like I definitely invested money into camera equipment. So I
Mm,
had the proper camera equipment to where I could make money, but I was just like, we're kind of in a bubble right now because of all the pandemic and everything that was going on. And um I am a firm believer in what you put out is what you receive. It's kind of
mm,
like, and I wish the best for everyone, including myself. And I always just try to live life on a positive note.
mm-hmm.
Um, because when you're angry about something all the time, you're just gonna have a bad day. So I always, even if it's like, okay, well, I don't have a job right now, or whatever it was at the time, I always remembered to be positive because I knew in the back of my mind that something will happen.
Right.
You just have to, manifest it essentially. And this is, I always manifest everything that happens in my life. And I mean, I don't know if you're a firm believer yourself in
Yeah.
manifestation.
Mhm.
And like I said, I live life on a positive note.
I believe you get out what you put in. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
if you put in the hard work and you're passionate about something, eventually, and you're good at it, something eventually will, pay
Yeah,
off.
definitely. Um, but yeah, just how I got involved with Wayne was just knowing the right people.
Hmm.
And I think that's a big thing. Like as I got older, you know, networking, I begin to understand it more.
Hmm.
And networking is, I guess, to me is go out and talk to these people because,
Hmm.
you know, in the real world, closed mouths don't get fed. And I think that that plays a huge role in my life because I talk to everybody that I meet. I will have a conversation. I will sit down with you. I will greet you. And if you treat me with the same respect, you will get it. You know what I mean? It's vice versa. And yeah, with the whole how I got involved with Wayne was just like I said, the manifestation thing. Like I was like, okay, what am I gonna do next? Yeah, and I asked the universe, I was like, can I just have something that is beneficial for me in the long run? Like I don't want to go back to school. Like I straight up like kind of like said a prayer in a sense.
Right.
And my buddy Kyle, shout out my buddy Kyle, that he plays a huge role in everything that's been happening.
Kyle Hope.
Kyle's denied. So he's another filmmaker
Okay.
from Washington. He called me and I think about 45 minutes later after I put that out, which is crazy story. And I told quite a few people this, like my close friends, and they're like, wow, like that's so cool. And
Right.
yeah, it was just one of those things where I got a call 45 minutes later. And I almost took it as a joke at first because it was like,
It's not real.
hey yo, what are you doing, bro? I got a call. Wayne's looking for a videographer. Do you still have all your camera equipment? It was just kind of like that. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like what is it? Like I'm curious because I've never worked with somebody so big before. Me, I am a huge Wayne fan.
Right.
Um, since I was a kid, so it was just kind of like it was questionable. I was like, what the fuck, and um it was like one of those things where red pill, blue pill. You
Hmm.
can either say yes or say no.
Right.
I couldn't imagine what I'd be doing if you know what I mean. I'd probably be doing freelance stuff still. I mean, because I have little side jobs that I do here and there for people, but
Hmm.
Yeah, I told him yes, and basically, uh, I got a call from Mac. Shout out Mac. You know, he's a very, very cool dude. And yeah, no, we talked, and he's like, "Yo, like, heard you like skateboard filmer, da 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 da." Like, the question was, "Can you handle this?" And I was like, "Of
Mm,
course." In
yeah,
the back of my head, I'm like, "What the fuck? I don't know what I'm like with Lil Wayne." Like, that's kind of hesitant because me just being like, not. I've never been around somebody who has so much. Um, they're just like such a popular person, you know, like a almost like a rock star in a sense.
yeah.
And I said yeah, and then they flew me out the same day, and I just remember flying out there. I just was I was really nervous because I had no idea where I was going. I don't know any of these people. Um, but the first time I met Wayne, um, I was like stuttering. I was like, "Oh, my name's Phil," and he's like, "Yo, what up?" Like, and now it's like, "Yo, what up?" Like, we dap it up, we talk. You know, I ask him how his day's going. I ask him about any of the games he just watched. You know, and but at the time, you know, it was just such a crazy feeling because and I met Wayne and I met the whole squad. Shout out squad, man. Those dudes, you know, they also play a huge role because it was just kind of like I was just kind of thrown in a van with a bunch of skate kids. So I was very familiar with that, you know,
Yeah.
just because I've been on trips with other homies, you know, where we travel. And yeah, I remember Wayne asked me for my number and we talked, and I went to his hotel and we just conversated for like 20 minutes. And at that point I knew, I was like, okay, well, it's not as intimidating as it seems. It's these people are just we're all human at the end of the day, and I think that that's the most important thing we can remember. You know, it's like nobody should be intimidated because like you're a superstar. You know, to Wayne to me is, I look at him like a skateboarder. Obviously, like I've he makes, you know, amazing music for everybody, but he's a skater first to me, and I think that's why we're all here still. You know, I look at him like a skateboarder, and I treat him the same way I treat all my friends, with respect. And yeah,
Yeah.
kind of how I got involved with them, you know. And it's I've definitely have learned quite a lot of bit about cinematography and videography in the last 2 years or so, just being around him.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, definitely a huge step up in terms of, I guess, who you're working with. But yeah, I mean, Wayne has definitely, come a long way with his skating. I remember when he first started, and just to see where he's at now, like he does, look like like a professional skater. He is a professional skater, right? He actually just like went
Yeah,
pro.
we gave him a board. You know, we the reason for that was, it was like he deserves it more than, you know, a lot of people, because there's a lot of controversy in this industry where people are like, oh, like, you guys just gave him a board because he's Lil Wayne. And it's like, no, like, it's like, this man deserves this just as much as everybody else does. And I think that people question it sometimes, and there's a lot of like misconception when it comes to, why does Lil Wayne have a board with his face on it? And it was like, I can say that about 30 other skateboarders, but I'm not going to do that. You see what I'm saying? Because it's
Right.
not something that, those aren't my intentions, you know. And when you do something for a long time, and I think he's perfected enough on a skateboard to where he should be riding his own board with his own face on it. You
Yeah,
see what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna downplay it. You know, like I said, I've been a fan of Wayne for years. Like I said, you know, like I have a bunch of old mixtapes on my old desktop that I have at home. And then when I saw him get involved in skating, there was also a lot of controversy. Like, oh, he's just doing it because he's trying to cash in on something. And I always knew that he had a love for it the same way we did. I can just tell by the way his face lights up when he
Mm,
lands a trick, and the way he smiles, and the the lights reflecting off of his grill. It's like, okay, like this is so cool. This is one of the coolest things. Like, and I know that because as a skateboarder myself, like when I was younger and I would go try to grind like a 10 stir handrail or whatever it was, it's like,
yeah.
oh shit, like I just landed this, like I'm about to go celebrate, or like, whatever it is, like. And I think once I seen it in person,
Mm,
I already knew before, like watching, all his old skate stuff before I came around. And then, but when you see it in person, you're like, holy shit, like this is really cool. This is,
mm,
and you can feel the energy in the room with everybody. Like,
mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
he seems really, it is genuine, I think, the love
absolutely.
he has for skating. So I think that that's probably what it is, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. I think that, you know, any given time, Wayne can call me, and I'm always down to go skate with him. I'm always down to call whoever. Can we open up a park? Even if it's, oh, I got this cool little ditch, not too far from your house. Like, do you want to skate it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's down. He'll pull up. He'll make time,
Mm.
even if it's like a little sketchy little walk through like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he has a security, so I'm sure he feels safe. And
Right.
when you get to the skate spot, like he'll examine it, he'll analyze it,
Yeah.
and then he'll start asking questions like, what do you think would be cool in this? And I'm like, well, I know you can do X, Y, and Z. How
Mm-hmm.
about you do X or Y on it, or whatever trick he wants to try? And he'll do it.
Kind of like a skate caddy. Like which club should I use? Which trick should I?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, oh, what trick should I do on this spot? And I know what he's capable of. And sometimes I'll push it. I'll push his limits a little bit because I know you can do this, but I also feel like you can maybe do this.
Yeah.
And that's when he pushes himself. And then that's called progression, essentially.
Right.
And that goes for anything. I feel like, he probably challenges himself in the studio all the time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he could use that same mental motive to when he's out skating. Like, it's definitely different, but it's the same.
For sure. For sure. Well, I got like 5 minutes left in the recording,
Okay.
so yeah, I guess just to kind of like wrap it up. What else do you want to do with like your skating in the skating world and videography world? I mean, now that you have all this experience and yeah.
As far as skateboarding, um, I'm gonna film skateboarding until I can't film skateboarding anymore,
Yeah.
unless like some big corporate like whatever. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but it's like, there's definitely a lot of room for growth still, I feel like. As of right now, I got me and a couple of my buddies are working on a video.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
Probably be done at the end of the year, hopefully. If with all
Yeah.
this crazy rain and the weather, it's just
Yeah, the
like,
weather has been insane in LA.
it's hard to go and skate, but I mean, just gonna continue working with Wayne, and we have a couple of things we're working on right now. I'm not gonna talk about it on here,
Okay.
but we're working on a couple of things right now. And yeah, just my end goal is to get as much experience as possible and to just carry it with me long term.
Nice.
That's probably what's going to benefit me in the long run, is to just soak up in as much information as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think even shooting shows with him and behind the scenes, and you know doing stuff like that, it's still new to me, but I figured it out. What the best lens is to capture the shot, ISO settings, shutter speed, all that, and
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, just kind of like I said, I gotta just take all the information that I have now and just kind of keep learning more as I go. And there's still tons of stuff to be done. It's
Mm-hmm.
never finished. Like Kobe said, job not finished. So.
That's a good spot to end it on. Shout out to
Oh,
Kobe. Shout out to Wayne, of course. You can call Philly at RX Philly. on all of the social, on Instagram at least. But yeah, man. Well, thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon.